Thanks for joining us here at Live Action Leatherworks. And this little next video series, what we're doing is the edging of our baby armor. So the tools we're going to use for that are either your wood slicker or your plastic slicker here. And what I'm also going to be using today is this number 2 edge beveler. Okay, so the first things we want to do, just like we did with our swivel knife, we want to get some jeweler's rouge. Put it down on some cardboard here. And run it. Basically, what you do with this edge beveler is you're going to have these grooves here. You see it's kind of like a little little tongue, forked tongue. You put that in your edge and you run it along. Well, that's where that cutting blade is. So I'm taking my forefinger, put it in there, and I'm just drawing it across that jeweler's rouge to sharpen it up a bit so we can get a good clean edge and good clean cut. Okay, so it's very simple. Number 2, I'm just putting it in that corner and I'm gonna run it along the edge, just kind of at a 35-degree angle thereabouts. And there we go. It's just taking off that edge. We're going to do it on both sides. And it's going to create a little like lip right here in the middle portion. And that's fine because once we put our water on and we're going to slick this thing, it's going to make a nice rounded edge. And especially in places like this, it's going to be right up underneath Moose's arm. We want that to be a nice round edge so it's not going to poke him or anything like that. We'll come up here and we're just going to do this across all the edges for this piece. Okay. And what's nice about doing this, all the pin marks that I had done are getting taken off on the edges, so we're getting rid of that. It's like there's some pin marks along here. Well, I'm going to take this edge beveler, run it along that edge, boom, it's all gone. So even if there was a chance of it being seen, you won't see that chance anymore. And all of these marks are going to get taken out once we put the holes in there. So another great thing is any of your edges that were kind of wobbly, this is going to clean that right up. It's going to make really nice straight lines. So you can't beat that. Can't beat an edge beveler. And now I'm using a number 2 because this is 4-ounce leather. So number 2 is going to be a little bit more of a shallow cut. I've got a number 3 that I use on my larger pieces. This one will just create, is good for these smaller parts here. Okay, so there you have it. I've gone through and beveled all the edges all the way across the board. Just kind of double check here. I say that and sometimes I go, whoop, I didn't do that. Okay, so now's the fun part of edge slicking. So edge slicking is we're going to take, again, we've got our bowl of water. I generally always keep just a bowl with some water handy and a sponge. This case, I'm just going to use my finger, dip it in, and go across that edge. So now I've got a little bit of water on the edge, and I can take my wooden slicker here and just run it across that. And what you're trying to do is get enough friction that it's gonna almost create a plasticky look to it. It's gonna shine a little bit. It's gonna feel very, very smooth. If you can do it, you know, you just stick with it. I'm gonna try my plastic one here too. Yeah, you might not be able to see it. I'll try to zoom in here so you can see maybe what that looks like a bit more. So we've just kind of rounded things out a bit. As you can see how rough it is there, but with edge slicking, we've made this nice smooth portion there. We're going to do that basically all the way around this piece. Okay. So let's do that. And the wood craft tool slicker, it has, as you can see, it kind of has multiple grooves. So it's used mainly for pieces that are a little bit smaller. It's nice to have, of course, when you've got multiple pieces on the project. Now what I have seen some people do is they've taken the plastic one, found a variable speed Dremel, and attached that to the Dremel. Because see, it's got the hole there, so you can actually put a post in it, and that way they can just go and just really do these really, really fast. I have not found a variable speed Dremel that I felt comfortable buying, especially just because I can't. The reason why you want it to be variable speed is because you want to be able to slow it down if you need to. Go too fast and you can actually end up burning the leather, and you don't want that. So one thing I want to point out, I got kind of this lip from doing that because I've compressed the fibers there, and it's kind of created this lip. All you can do is then take this back end, run it along like that, and remove that lip like that. So if that ever happens, you can just take this, run along there. You can even run it along like that. And the reason why you're getting that lip, again, because you're putting water on this and it's softening it up. And when you soften it up, you can kind of almost like make it like a little jelly. So in order to combat that, you may need to take that end of your slicker and just remove that. What? This for belts is very time consuming and annoying because you just gotta hold it. Ooh, almost knocked all my water over. But you can see how a Dremel would make this very, very quick, go by very, very fast. There's a part of me that's like, yeah, but I want to do everything by hand because that's cool, man. I can say no power tools have touched this thing. It's all done by hand. And the other part of me's like, you're a dummy. Don't do that. Look, go for the fast way. Because you can see already how long this is taking. And you'll find what works best for you or what you want to do. You know, how much time you want to put into things, how much money you want to put into things, you know, that kind of stuff. So right now, This is my life in leather working. But it's these kinds of things that it's that labor of love. Man, it's a lot of work right now. And it can get tiresome and you're just like, man, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through all this? But when you're done, you can look at it and go, well, you know what? I'm glad I took the time to put in that extra bit. It's made me proud of the project. I feel good that I can put my name on it. Feel good I can show it to people, and they're going to really enjoy it. You know what? I'm excited to put this on Moose and see his smiles when he goes trick-or-treating and all that kind of fun stuff. And he's going to be the coolest child barbarian ever. So I'm just holding this as tight as possible and trying to go fast, trying to get a lot of friction in there. Rub my finger over it, see how it's going. All right. One thing you also want to be careful with when you're, putting this water on there is trying not to have a wet finger and touching it in places, because that goes back to what we were saying before. Sometimes if you get, if you just wet a certain portion, when you go back and dye it, you're going to see those splotches. So something to look out for, something just to be careful of. Try to keep the water just to the areas that you're going to be slicking. And you can use a sponge as well, honestly. I know a lot of people, I have seen that as well. I'll just grab a sponge and whoosh. But I don't have a small kind of good sponge for that right now. I just got that big yellow sponge. All my other sponges have dye on them right now. Need to go get some clean ones. Yeah. This is the part I'm most concerned about, the part that's going to be up under his arm. I want that to feel nice. You don't want a lot of harsh fibers. There we go. I'm just going to run this over. Get rid of that lip. And there we have it. I mean, it's nice. It was pretty fast for this little simple of a project, obviously. But it's going to create a nice look to it. And we're also probably going to do more little edging things. I've got some edge paint that I really like. I'll probably throw that on here. All right, so that's it. That's all we're going to do with our edging. So we'll get a close-up here, kind of show you the difference with these edges. So you can see just a little bit of the difference that edging is doing for us. It's going to feel nice on his skin. It's going to create a nice rounded spot. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's all we're going to do on camera. We'll do the rest off camera just because it's all about the same. We'll do all of these pieces. All right, so I wanted to interrupt real quick before I jump to the end of this and show you something that came to mind when I was working on some of these edges off camera. I just wanted to show you this kind of, rough side. And specifically I want to point out this area right here. So it's, happened on a curved edge where I was beveling there, and it kind of has almost a stepped look to it here. It goes and, doesn't look very smooth. Doesn't look like a smooth round edge. Well, what's great is that when you're beveling, you're actually going to end up curing a lot of those problems. Over here I had a very similar issue. But when I beveled the edges and then slicked, when you go through and you slick these edges, you're actually going to cure a lot of those problems where you have that weird stepping and kind of sharp edges. So you're going to get that a lot in your belt straps, around those rounded areas like that. And so what's great about slicking is you're going to take care of a lot of those issues. Now it's a little dark right now because I just did this area, so it still has some of the water and the moisture in it. But this is an area I did previously. It's very smooth to touch. But I just wanted to show that because I thought it was interesting, something to take note of, and I just wanted to show you guys. There we have it. Our edge slicking is done. So now we have good smooth edges all the way around the piece. Now this was kind of the budget low-end way of finishing off edges, just some water and some slicking. Some advanced stuff you may want to try to do on your own. It's nothing I've tried yet. I may get into it later, but for right now it's just not something I've really want to jump into. But what other people use is beeswax. I've also heard a guy says he uses paraffin wax to seal in these edges. And it really just compacts the fibers and keeps them really, really in place and is a good finisher. But for my purposes, everything I've done, I've always just used water and a slicker, and that's actually been great for my needs, and I haven't had to do anything above and beyond that. So at this point, there's two ways you can go about doing our next bit. We can either dye everything and then punch our holes, or punch our holes and then dye everything. I think for this particular project, since I'm using eyelets for all the holes, I think I'll actually go ahead and dye everything first, and then we'll punch our holes. The reason why I'm doing it that way is because if I were to not be using eyelets and the holes would just be open, I would want to dye after punching my holes. That way the dye would be going, into the hole itself and getting in there, because I like to make sure there's no exposed leather on all my pieces. If I can help it, I want to make sure everything has some kind of color to it. But again, since we're going to be doing eyelets for this piece, I think we can just go ahead and straight to the dye, and then worry about punching our holes and that kind of stuff. And then we're going to also be talking about straps in a little bit, so I think that's going to be exciting, and you'll want to stick around for that. Thanks very much for checking us out. I hope you've enjoyed this bit on edge slicking, and we're going to jump straight into dyeing. This is going to be great.